Hey guys, CineRanter here. Yep, this is what I look like. Hey. Now, recently I had the opportunity to interview Mr. Craig Vincent. Now, Craig is an actor who worked alongside Robert De Niro in Martin Scorsese's Casino. He played the cowboy who refused to take his boots off the table and was subsequently thrown out of the casino. He also worked with De Niro, Scorsese, and also Al Pacino in Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, where he played Ed Partin, the Teamster's business agent who records Jimmy Hoffa's tampering of juries and thus subsequently sending him to jail. Now, Craig and I spoke for hours. He's a wonderful individual, a very sweet man. We talked about so many things. He shared so many funny stories from behind the scenes of Casino and The Irishman, so many great anecdotes. And we talked about other things like, say, The Sopranos, The Many Saints of Newark, the state of modern day cinema. We even touched on why Steve Schirripa hates Robert De Niro, as Craig and Steve are friends. So many great stories and a wonderful interview, something I really enjoyed, and so did Craig, and I hope you guys enjoy this interview as well. Now, it's a very long interview, so what I've done is I've split it into a few parts. And what I'll also do is release a condensed version in the future, like a kind of highlight version. And I'll also release short little snippets from the interview. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And you'll also notice in this video and the subsequent ones that along the bottom I've put in chapters so you can jump to certain parts you might find more interesting than others. So I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. I mean, I know I did. And thanks for watching.
But I thought, this is like amazing, man. I don't even know this guy. I don't know where he came from. Never heard of him before. And all of a sudden, like, he's doing a thing on me. Like, wow. I mean, I was like so flattered. You know, it was so cool. I got his number. He never gave me his phone number, but I got his cell phone number from a mutual friend.
Right.
I said, please, I'm not gonna squeal there. I'm not gonna rat you out. I'm not gonna say you gave it to me. But please, I said, I will do anything. I'll wash your car for a year. I'll do whatever it takes to just give me his phone number. And I promise you, he will never know that I got the number from you. He comes in, he goes, Craig, he says, I like what you did. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But I don't think it's right for what we're going to do right now and stuff. I said, okay. So now in my head, I'm thinking, what an asshole. I mean, here I am writing stuff for me and De Niro, for Scorsese to want to shoot it, right? And now all of a sudden I shut down. Like immediately in my head, I'm going, this guy hates me. I don't know where I get the balls big enough to write a scene for Scorsese. I just blurted out, come on down, Frank. And immediately, Al had no idea that was coming. And without even missing a beat, the guy goes into, he says, I got one here now. He says, you remember that guy at Pardon, blah, blah, blah. Well, Pacino's Pacino, But it blew me away that he was that on and that like ready to answer and to say anything.
Want me to do that?
No, I don't think that'll be necessary. I mean, I'll tell the audience. I'll tell them straight up. They'll probably find it interesting. They'll probably think I'm a doofus, and it'll be pretty funny for them that I managed to get an interview with an actor who was in my favorite, The Irishman, and then I botched it so bad that I was sitting with him for 3 hours and I didn't even record it. They'll probably find it funny.
Yeah, well, it is kind of funny when you put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're actually saying is that in reality, you were just like, oh my God, it's Al Pacino.
Exactly. I was in complete awe of greatness, of somebody who I had idolized. There's a scene where Joe slaps you. Are you going to be okay with that? Now I'm, again, in my head, I'm going, what are you fucking kidding me? Am I okay with it?
Because it looks real. Yeah. You watch that scene and it's like he's actually slapping the heck out of you, and you look
oh,
like you're
man. Like I said, 13 takes, and I still to this day have no idea what Marty was trying to get out of us on that scene.
Whenever anybody criticizes The Irishman, they always bring up that scene of De Niro stomping the grocer. It's just, I mean, no disrespect, but it's just so cool.
And I'm an avid follower now of CineRanter. I love what you do. I love your research. I love everything. You're an extremely easy guy. You're a great interviewer.
I was contacted by a director of a film, but he made a film with Harvey Keitel in it. I asked him whether there was an opportunity, maybe if we could do an interview or something. But the kind of gist I got was that the answer was yes, but only if I gave his film a positive review. And
really?
That's where I kind of think to myself, you know what? I don't want to be a sellout. I can't lie to my audience and say I liked the film if I didn't like it. And the film came out and I didn't like it. Way of Silvio Dante, Steven Van Zandt, but he was in The Irishman, if you remember. He was singing in the scene where Frank Student Appreciation Night, and when me and my friend saw him, we both kind of looked at each other and we just burst out laughing. So you've got an intense scene between
Yes.
Pacino and Pesci, and you're seeing two titans on the big screen, the only time they're on screen, and me and him are trying to stop our giggling and everything, because it's so weird seeing Silvio Dante, who's got this very, famously hoarse voice, and he even imitates Pacino in The Sopranos. Yeah, he does that just when I thought I was out. Why does Steve Schreiber hate Robert De Niro so much?
We're finally communicating face to face.
Yeah, I was thinking that myself. I was thinking it's been such a long time communicating over email and WhatsApp as well. We talked a lot about The Irishman and everything, and now finally face to face.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked when I first. I don't know how it came about, but technology, you never know how this artificial intelligence stuff works anymore. But I don't know it. I don't know it at all. I don't have a grasp on it. But all of a sudden, I see your thing on me, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow, this is so cool. I can't believe this guy took the time to actually do this and spend time and go through my career and what limited, capacities that I've had over the years and whatever. But I thought, this is like amazing, man. I don't even know this guy. I don't know where he came from. Never heard of him before. And all of a sudden, like, he's doing a thing on me, like, wow. I mean, I was like so flattered, it was so cool.
Well, I had actually a similar reaction because I made the video because the inception of it was that I was doing research for The Irishman because I made loads of videos on it. I knew my audience were interested in it. I was really looking forward to that film, and I noticed that, hey, this guy Edward Parton, I've seen him somewhere before, and his name came up in the credits of a previous Scorsese film. I thought, wow, this is the guy who played the cowboy in Casino. My audience will love this, so I put together a video. And then when you commented on it, I was the one who was flattered. I was like, wow, the actual actor who I'm talking about watched the video that I made on him. That was wonderful.
Oh, man. No, I mean, it was like, it was such a pleasure to just see, somebody I didn't have to pay, or, like a publicist or somebody to do something on me. And it was like, came out of left field, and I was so flattered. And, I guess we shared the same, the same passion for this project, because, I had been following it, like you said, like you were following it too. So prior to, the actual production and pre-production and all that. So it was amazing.
It was in development for so long, wasn't it? I
think
I think Robert De Niro mentioned it in 2007, maybe as early as that.
I think you're right. Yes, because I remember hearing about it, and I remember at that point Nick Pileggi, I think, was involved somehow. The writer and the writer of Goodfellas, co-writer with Marty, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
yeah. He wrote Casino and Goodfellas as well. Yeah.
Right.
So what was his involvement? Was he attached to write the script or something?
Well, I don't know. He was like one of the producers at the time. I don't know if they threw him a bone or how his involvement was initially, with the project. But I know obviously Steve Zalian came on and wrote the screenplay eventually. But I had gotten like yourself, I was like. I mean, this was a dream project, right? I mean, this was like the most incredible assembly of actors, producer, director. I mean, Al Pacino and De Niro and Pesci. Come on,
exactly.
It was amazing to hear that they were going to do a project together.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it was my dream movie because another thing is that the quality of gangster films, crime films, they had really declined. Nobody was making films like this anymore. It's like
absolutely.
And it was the last hurrah. We're bringing the gang back together, and half of these guys haven't even made movies with each other. Harvey Keitel's there as well. Pacino and Keitel never done a film together, I don't think, and Keitel hadn't worked with Scorsese in something like 30 years. And it's like all of the guys, one last big crime epic movie.
Yeah,
and it's just beautiful. Even if the film, like I know a lot of people on my channel who weren't impressed with the film, but just the idea of it and the fact that they were able to achieve it is something special, I think.
No, absolutely. I mean, just assembling that crew
Mm.
together at one time, and I mean, it's the Super Bowl of gangsters, right? I mean, come
Yeah,
on, it's the top of the top. It's the best of the best. Like, so, when I
that's it.
heard
And what?
about it, I went nuts. I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do because Ellen Lewis, the casting director, never called me again after Casino. I never got a call from Bob or Marty or anybody, in their future projects. And I'm thinking like, well, I did my little thing, it was whatever, it was all right. I'm off the radar, I'm so off the radar. So I never thought about it, but I said, there's got to be a way. I mean, somehow. And I don't know how a script came about, but I was able to get a copy of like the first draft, second draft. And when I read it, I thought, yeah, this it's a little weak. It's not strong. There were a lot of elements to the script that, I've read so many scripts over the years and been involved with some really good writers and some bad writers, and it just seemed to me that that level was not where it was going to end up.
Right.
So I just kind of like, after I read it and then waiting to hear more and more, always checking on the availability and what was happening with the production and where it was, whether it was still in development, pre-production or what. And then finally, it started to take shape and it was serious. Everybody was serious. Everybody was on board. They even did a read through, I think, in oh, I can't even remember what year that was, but it was for Marty. It was for Erwin Winkler.
Yeah, I
All the
think it might have
cast.
been 2000. Uh, could it have been as early as 2013? I can't remember, but I remember. Yeah, I do remember because they released clips of it. Netflix did, of guys like De Niro and Marty on around the table and everything, just reading their lines.
Yes, it made the trades. It was in the trades, I think, for a while too, that they had started doing a read through. I never saw any of the video. Obviously, they weren't publicizing that at the time. But yeah, that's when I heard about it.
Right.
And so I'm like, now I'm sitting in upstate New York, and I had moved back from Vegas, and I lived in Vegas and LA for a while. So I moved back to upstate New York for a little bit, and I'm thinking, well, I'm real close to the city now, so I got to make it in and figure out a way to get in somehow on this thing. And then it wasn't until years later when the casting and everything started. And that's when I reached out. I actually reached out to De Niro.
Oh, is it?
Huh?
Is it? Yeah, you reached out personally to Robert De Niro then.
I did. I got his number. He never gave me his phone number, but I got his cell phone number from a mutual friend.
Right.
I said, please, I'm not gonna squeal at you. I'm not gonna rat you out. I'm not gonna say you gave it to me, but please, I said, I will do anything. I'll wash your car for a year. I'll do whatever it takes to just give me his phone number, and I promise you, he will never know that I got the number from you. So he
Oh, brilliant.
trusted me, and he gave me his number, right? And I thought, well, he's giving me a phony number, because when you call it, it's not like, hi, it's Bob, I'm not in, he doesn't have, it's a generic thing where you call and the phone number says, you've reached such and such a number. So I'm thinking, he's fucking with me. He's playing with me. He's like, he didn't give me the right number. So so I don't call him, because I'm thinking, what if I call this guy after 20 some years and I say, hey, do you remember me? I'm the guy from Casino, blah blah blah, and he's gonna like say, what the fuck, he's gonna hang up on me. I'm thinking like, he's gonna go, what is this guy's nuts? He's calling me. I don't even, I knew him for 10 minutes, back in 1994. So I text the guy and I say, like I know him, right? Like he thinks, well, he's gonna think, well, he don't recognize the number, So I'm thinking in my head, well, I'm going to write, this is how I texted him. I said, Bob, hey, I'm going to be in New York, and I was wondering if I might be able to get a shot, a reading for The Irishman. So about a day later, right? He never responds, no matter how it is, like immediately. Like it takes forever to get back. So I get a response the next day. I'm thinking, well, he's not responding. So he writes back, who's this? And so I proceed to tell him, right? And I go in this whole dissertation via text, about me, about my connection, knowing, a lot about the backstory about Russell Buffalino and the whole thing growing up in Endicott, New York. And then I don't hear anything, right? I figure, okay, too much information. He doesn't give a shit. I don't blame him. Who the hell am I? I'm nobody, right? So, like 3 days later, I get a call from his assistant. And I'm thinking, she goes, hi, is this Craig Vincent? And I said, yes. And she says, hi, this is Bob's assistant, so-and-so, right? And I'm thinking, here it comes. Bob told her to, look, tell this guy don't bother me, leave me alone. Who are you to call him? He's going to put a restraining order on you. I'm thinking all these crazy thoughts in my head, like, this guy, he just had his assistant to try to, tell me lay off, right? So I'm waiting for the boom to lower on me, right? And I'm thinking, here it comes. And she says, I says, yeah, I'm waiting to hear it. And she goes, well, Bob wanted me to get some info for you, from you for casting. And like my eyes lit up. I'm like, am I hearing this right? Is this like, part of my dream? Is this, am I awake? You go through that whole scenario like really fast. And I said, okay. I said, she said, can you send me your resume, blah, blah, blah. You have any tape, whatever. So I sent her what I got. She forwards it to casting. Now, Ellen Lewis, I don't know what I ever did to that woman. She's the casting director. She every time I try to reach out, my former manager tried to reach out years and years ago for The Aviator, when they were doing The Aviator. She brought me in, but she was like very rude. I don't know. I mean, it was like total night and day from when I was casting Casino to The Aviator. And she's got this hard edge. Well, I'm sorry. I don't want to badmouth this woman, but and I'm certainly not. She's wonderful at what she does, but I don't know. I just got like this horrible vibe from her. Like she couldn't stand me. Like she was mad at me or just didn't like me. And so I thought, well, okay, I don't know what I did. Maybe my performance sucked. I don't know. Maybe she didn't like what I have no idea. So anyway, so I'm waiting for a call from casting from Ellen Lewis's office. And it's about 4 days later, and I get a call from a New York number, but nobody leaves a message. So I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't they leave a message? And it was one of her assistants. So I call back the number and I find out it's Ellen Lewis's office. I said, oh, this is Craig Vincent. I think I missed a call from you guys regarding, casting or whatever for Irishman. So anyway, they get back to me. Everything's okay. Everything's worked out. And so they had me do a couple of different readings and send it to them. I had to self-tape, which is what everybody's doing these days. Everybody's remote now, and it's been that way even before COVID. But so I put myself on tape for a couple of different characters. Then she tells me, "Can you do this scene with a Southern accent?" I said, "Sure, I'll try. I'll give it a shot." So I do it. I send it back, and like another 3-4 days goes by, and then I get a call, and I said, "Well, you're going to play. We're going to offer you the role of Ed Parton." Now, like I'm jumping through the wall because I'm thinking this character, Ed Parton, was really instrumental in getting Jimmy Hoffa arrested, and put to prison. I mean, where
the Get Hoffa squad, Bobby Kennedy, as you know, they tried numerous times to put Hoffa behind bars, and they couldn't. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I got scenes with Pacino, I got scenes with De Niro, and this is going to be like unbelievable. This is going to be like career defining, for me. I mean, it's going to be probably the biggest role in the biggest film I've ever had. And so I'm waiting to get the script. The agent I had at the time was working out the deal, and so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get all this fucking dialogue. I'm going to be having to get a coach to help me with the Southern accent. I guess they liked it enough that they offered me the role, but I'm really going to work on this thing. And I end up calling Parton's sons and trying to get some video from his son and try to get some backstory so I could be prepared. And so I never get a script, so I never asked for one. I figure, okay, they're rewriting, Marty rewrites, from what I understand, right up until the day they're shooting sometimes. So I'm thinking, listen, if they want me to have a script, they'll send it. So nothing. I go to New York for wardrobe. I get set up. They have to make this suit for me because obviously I don't fit, off the rack stuff. And so they make this suit for me, and I'm thinking they're going to make a bunch of different outfits, right? Because I've got a couple of different scenes. So about 3-4 days before filming, I get my sides. They email me my sides. Now I'm looking, and there's nothing in the sides where I say anything. It's like the first couple of scenes where, if you remember, we're in the in Pacino's suite in Nashville, and they're going over. If you remember, in the foreground, it's Pacino and the two guys, the detective and the other guy, that are going through how they're going to manipulate the jury. So, I'm in the scene with Jesse Plemons and Bob De Niro in the background, and it's Al Pacino and the other two guys in the foreground. So after I read the sides and I know that there's no dialogue, I'm thinking, I got to do something here. I mean, the camera, I know the camera's going to come in on us. I know he's going to do our coverage. And I'm thinking, well, what the fuck am I going to say here? What am I going to do? So, the stage direction, the TV was on, and they're playing the Cuban Missile Crisis. The situation with the Cuban Missile Crisis. So with the Kennedys and Castro and that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, what can I do? So I start writing. I'm on my laptop, right? I'm in my hotel room, and I'm writing, and I'm thinking, okay, it's pretty good. I think, it's going to be an improv, but I want to run it by Marty and make sure, he's okay with it. So I write this whole thing with me and De Niro, right? Like, and I'm even writing De Niro's dialogue, right? So I'm thinking, because I got to say something, and I figure, well, I'm gonna talk about, the Kennedys and the shitbag, how they're because I'm a typical Southern guy who hates blacks, who hates, he comes from the South, he's into that whole political thing. So I start into this whole tirade about, the Kennedys, Castro, bringing the South back to where it once was. So I'm thinking I'm being brilliant, right? So so I make a couple of copies because I think, okay, well, maybe he'll like it and Bob will change it or whatever. This is my mentality, right? So so I write it out, and I'm sitting, they place us in the scene. So Marty comes in, and as he's walking out, I said, Marty, look, I wrote this, and I thought maybe I can improvise something with Bob here, when you come around and do something with us. And, I figure you're gonna bring us into some coverage here. So he says, yeah, let me take a look at it. And he's reading it, and he goes, yeah, he says, let me think about this. So he goes back to behind, to Video Village, and and they're shooting the foreground scene, and I don't, he doesn't say anything. They're shooting everything, so we're just in the background. Where he's shooting us, wide and way up from the front. So he comes in, he goes, Craig, he says, I like what you did. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, but I don't think it's right for what we're going to do right now and stuff. I said, okay. So now in my head, I'm thinking, what an asshole. I mean, here I am writing stuff for for me and De Niro, for Scorsese to want to shoot it, right? And now all of a sudden I shut down. Like immediately in my head, I'm going, this guy hates me. I don't know where I get the balls big enough to write a scene for Scorsese. And I'm thinking, you know what? The old adage, better to better to ask forgiveness better to plead forgiveness than ask for permission or something. You heard that?
So vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, something about, So what I should have done in my head now, I'm thinking maybe I should have just gone for it. I should have just thrown it in.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall where they may. He could say, cut, no, I don't want to do this. Instead of asking for the permission to do it up front, when they came in on my coverage, I should have just gone off and did it. And, and then expected De Niro to react and say whatever he was going to say. But I didn't do it, so I shut down. So now in my head, I'm thinking I completely shut down. I don't want to improvise anything. I don't want to try anything else. I'm thinking he hates what I'm thinking in my head for this character. So I am just not going to do anything. I'm just going to leave it alone. And whatever comes, comes. Whatever he's got in his mind about this character, he's going to let me know, and he's going to tell me, or I'm going to get the sides, days ahead of time. And it was basically, that's how it was written. It was like there was no written dialogue that I had ever gotten in the script, in the sides. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, now I'm reduced to a glorified extra, which, hey, look I'm just happy to be a part of this scene, a part of this set, part of this movie with these guys. If there's no dialogue, then so be it. So I'm thinking, all right, well, I've got a scene coming up now. I got this scene with Al, where I'm sitting in the background, and if you remember, he calls Robert De Niro character, and he says, you got to come down here. There's a lot of nuts in Nashville.
Yeah.
So when he's saying that on the phone, I didn't say anything. I didn't say nothing to Marty. I never said anything to the DP, to Pablo. I just blurted out, come on down, Frank, and and I started to say, the water's fine, like, come on down. There's an old saying, like, the water's fine, come on in, the water's fine. I don't know what I was thinking. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there with Pacino, and I'm thinking, I got to do something here. And immediately, Al had no idea that was coming. And without even missing a beat, the guy goes into, he says, I got one here now. He says, you remember that guy at Pardon, blah, blah, blah. So it was like brilliant. Like, here I am. I feel like at home, like I'm with other actors that, that get the improvisation and be right on point, like immediately. Like without even skipping a beat, it just blew me away. I mean, Pacino's Pacino, But it blew me away that he was that on and that like ready to answer and to say anything. And I was in awe. I mean, that was it. And I even said, I blurted out. I said, "Hey Al, I apologize for overlapping." I said, "I didn't mean to." He goes, "No." He says, "That was good." He says, "Hey, there's a reason why Marty's got you here." It's almost like, well, now I'm going back in my head again, and I'm going, there's a reason why. Yeah, I guess, but maybe Al thinks, why the fuck is there? Why is this guy here? And I'm thinking like, why is he here? Like he's got to question why I'm there. Like I know he's never seen anything I've done. Obviously, I haven't done that much.
But I'm thinking, uh-oh, you know, now he's thinking like, you know, this guy shouldn't even be in the same frame with me. You know, who is this guy? You know, there's a reason Marty brought you here. And I'm thinking, well, I guess if it isn't obvious, I guess there is a reason somewhere, you know. So now I've got that in my head, and I'm sitting here and we're waiting for the next take because he's doing it a few times. And so I let him have his take where I don't say anything because I figure I blurted this shit out, you know, without getting permission. Now I'm just going to do it the way he wants me to do it, you know. So I don't say a word. I'm just sitting back. We do another couple of takes, and I blurt out, "Man," I said, "I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone episode." Now you got to understand, the set is so quiet. You can hear a pin drop on that set. I mean, Marty is like, it's amazing. It's like you don't hear the lighting, the gaffer. You don't hear the banging of chairs. You don't hear a sound on that set. I don't even know where these guys, they must have been floating on some kind of an air contraption because there was no noise of any movement on the set, of anybody talking, of anybody moving equipment. It was amazing to me. It was so quiet, as they say, it was deafening. That's how quiet it was. Wow. So I blurt this out, right? And I go, I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone movie, right? And there's no sound, nobody, you know, and I'm mic'd, and I know Marty's listening, right? So I know Marty's listening. Al's here, you know, he's 4 feet in front of me. I know he hears me. Nobody says a word. So now I'm in my head again, and I'm going, what am I saying? It's like I'm having like this out of body experience where I have no control over my mouth, over my actions. I'm like, and now I'm like, shut the fuck up, Craig. Just shut the fuck up. Do what's on the page. Do what's supposed to be, and get the fuck out. And that's me. Now I'm in my head again, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm nervous anyway, right? I mean, who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
And but I mean, they made everything so easy for me, and they were very generous and very nice, and never a condescending moment, or I never felt like I couldn't do what I wanted to do, like I couldn't experiment. And he never once said, "No, Craig, you know, don't do that." The only thing he said was, "You know, leave that line out about, you know, the water. The water's fine." So I left it out. I didn't say it. That was the only direction Marty gave me on the whole film. The whole film. I never got one other direction, one other thing. He just kind of just lets you evolve, devolve, whatever it is in the moment, which I love anyway. I love being in the moment and being everything spontaneous anyway. And I work better that way. I have the grasp of what kind of the character I'm supposed to be and who I am. And I kind of like to just run that way. But like I said, I got into my head, and all these other things are playing the way, you know, like I'm in a Twilight Zone episode. That's how I felt the whole shoot. And it wasn't because of them. It was what was in my head, you know, not getting the responses I thought, or not getting, you know, the feedback, and then Marty telling me, you know, no, let's not do that. So all these things are playing in my head, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm just going to stop. But then I get to a scene with J.C. McKenzie, who plays the DA in his office, and I start going off there. And Marty liked it, you know, and I had a scene with him, you know, where we're transferring the videotape or the audio tape of me getting all that stuff on tape where they were, you know, conniving to taint the jury. So I throw in some stuff there. I think it's good. The second unit director was a great guy. He was shooting those scenes with me and JC, but Marty was watching in the background, you know, in Video Village. But he had this guy GA Aguilar, I think his name was, shoot those two scenes. So I started improvising there with JC, and JC is a tremendous actor. He's phenomenal.
He's on some new show with Sean Penn now and Julia Roberts. But anyway, so he's blowing me away. I'm improvising, but this guy is 100 steps ahead of me. So now I'm getting nervous because like I'm doing stuff and like he's coming back with faster stuff and funnier things, and now I'm like, fuck. I mean, I'm like, it's been so long. I'm like so out of practice, and we never rehearsed. So, and I thought, well, some of the stuff that we did, in the DA's office and in that bathroom scene where I'm transferring the tape over, I thought, I thought it was good, and second unit director thought so too. But Marty never left any of that in because I did some referrals to Bobby Kennedy and how he owes me a favor, for doing this for him. I was just throwing stuff out there, but he never used it, and it ended up being what it was. But I was just so happy to be a part of this whole thing. It was amazing. It's just amazing to be a part of that, being in this final, probably mob film that he's going to do in his lifetime. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they may have cut out a lot of stuff that you did, but ultimately, this time capsule that this movie is, you're a part of it. That must be such a great feeling to have.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I would have been happy just being an extra in this movie, just being in the background, showing up briefly, which basically is what ended up happening anyway. But going back to that whole thing, I'm assuming, I go back and I read the book, and I go back and I read that second draft, and I think there were a few lines in the second draft. Oh, Ed Parton, I don't even remember now, but I know in the book, the Ed Parton character was pretty integral to Hoffa, being brought down. So I thought at least I'm going to have that courtroom scene, where I'm squealing on him, because in real life, it was Ed Parton who actually testified against Jimmy Hoffa, if you remember.
No, I don't think that would be necessary. I mean, I'll tell the audience. I'll tell them straight up. They'll probably find it interesting. They'll probably think I'm a doofus, and it'll be pretty funny for them that I managed to get an interview with an actor who was in my favorite, The Irishman, and then I botched it so bad that I was sitting with him for 3 hours and I didn't even record it. They'll probably find it funny.
Yeah, well, it is kind of funny when you put it that way. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, listen, any human moment, that you can have doing any kind of interviews or whatever is gold, man.
Yeah.
There's no bad awkward moments in an interview or whatever, really.
So I just do need to briefly mention something, guys. So basically, Craig and I were interviewing on a live streaming platform, and the connection was a bit poor. I'm pretty sure the issues were on my side because I was too far away from my router at the time. And so the part that was salvaged is what you've just seen. And so then we moved to a WhatsApp interview. Now, it was an amazing conversation. Craig was gracious enough to sit there for around 3 hours. We could have gone on for even longer. It was such a great conversation. There were so many funny stories, things he said about behind the scenes of The Irishman, getting cast in Casino, meeting and greeting and working with guys like Pacino, Scorsese, and De Niro. We talked about so many different things. We talked about The Sopranos. We talked about Innocents of Newark. We talked about Steve Sciarippa and Talking Sopranos, because Craig is friends with Steve Sciarippa. And I even asked, why does he hate Robert De Niro so much? So many different things. I even shared a few stories of my own, like me talking with the real life nephew of Russell Bufalino. Now, you may be thinking, then why do I look so damn depressed about it? Well, the reason is that very stupidly, that entire 3 hours or so, the recording is without sound because of a horrendous error I made. So basically, what I didn't realize is that, so I was recording it on my phone. I clicked in-house recording. I clicked microphone recording. So as far as I'm aware, everything's working, everything's recording. I tested it. But what I didn't know was that when you record a live video with WhatsApp blocks the audio, so you can't record the sound. So all that time we had such a great conversation. And this isn't a hyperbole. I mean, I know it's easy to say now, but this isn't an exaggeration. It was one of the best conversations I've had in my life. And Craig was so gracious, and he's such a funny guy, such a great guy. And I felt like kicking myself when I realized that it was all gone. But I even had a video prepared where I took down notes from memory, what I could remember that Craig said, and I was gonna just tell you guys, just me alone. But Craig was gracious enough to be willing to go through things again. Sorry, did you envisage any kind of scene where, you know, you'd be walking into the courtroom, Al Pacino would be sitting there, as in the book, and him saying, "My God, it's parting," and you may be testifying, and having a kind of, you know, a big moment for yourself in the film, where you're essentially the center of attention in the scene?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, that, you know, as you read the book, it was a pretty intense character, and it was something that I thought, finally, you know, I'm going to get a chance to really act on film, like, you know, really have something to go after and to really sink my teeth in, so to speak. So yeah, the courtroom scene was big. There was another scene in the book where Hoffa was talking to my character Ed Barton about killing Bobby Kennedy.
Yes.
And using my connections in with Carlos Marcello, the head mob guy in New Orleans at the time, you know, to set something up to try to kill Bobby Kennedy. So yeah, I mean, in that respect, I was like I said, on cloud nine, because there were so many scenes in the book and integral character arcs to be able to go into, to discover and delve into. So yeah, I mean, I thought, you know, this is it. This is going to be the role of a lifetime for me.
So what was your reaction then when you saw the film and you saw your lack of scene, shall we say, and also, what did you think of the film anyway, as a piece of art? What did you think of the movie, and how would you compare it to Scorsese's other gangster films?
Well, as far as the role, I had, right up until like 3 days before we shot our first scene, I had thought, you know, new pages were coming. I was going to be getting all this dialogue. I was going to be getting all this new stuff, because I never got a copy of the original script. I never asked for one, and they never sent me one. So I figured, you know, they're working on it, because the last draft that I read was you know, wasn't quite there. I thought, you know, they got a couple of polishes to do left, you know, on this screenplay. So I figure they'll give it to me, you know, whenever they feel they need to. You know, Marty is you know, is a stickler for perfection, and he wants to get everything right. So in time, when he thought it was my time to get, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing, he'll give it to me. So I mean, I was under the impression right up to 3-4 days before we actually shot our first scene that I was going to have a pretty meaty role. And then once I did get the sides for the first day of filming, you know, I saw there was no dialogue, and I saw the scene laid out and everything. So like an idiot, you know, my ego, whatever you want to call it at the time, I thought, well, all right, I'm going to write something, because I'm pretty good at that. I mean, I could flush out, you know, what we need to do, and I could put something in that would make sense, that wouldn't be so off the wall or you know, self-grandizing, you know, just for the sake of me wanting to you know, have a bigger role. So I presented it to Marty the first day. I had written it out, and you know, he was very, very gracious and very nice, and you know, he's just a incredible human being. Not to mention, obviously, a great artist. But he looked at it, you know, and he's reading it, and he's actually, you know, really investing in it. And he says, "Let me think about this. Let me think about this." So he goes and he comes back, you know, before we start shooting the first take. He says, "You know, Craig, I think for now, I think we're just going to leave it. You know, we're okay. But I appreciate it so much that you know, that you did this, and it's really good. But I think right now it's not gonna fit for what I want." So And now, so now I'm going back in my head and I'm going, oh boy, I'm shutting down because now I'm thinking, you know, what I wrote was decent, you know, was okay. I knew it was okay. I wasn't trying to convince myself that I'm any kind of great writer or anything, but I knew within the context of that scene, that character, and what was going on with the TV and in our immediate vicinity there with the Cuban Missile Crisis, I thought it worked. So now I'm shutting down. I'm thinking, oh man, you know, this guy hates me. You know, he thinks I'm an idiot. You know, I'm fucking with his film. You know, I'm trying to tell him what scenes to add and what, you know, what not to. So so I kind of shut down, and I from that then on in, I would that point forward, I was like so apprehensive about improvising or doing anything, you know, that wasn't scripted. So I kind of became introverted and closed up, which is not good because Marty on his set, especially this set, there was a lot of improvisation, a lot of actors that were trying different things, and I eventually did try some things that made it in, and then some things that didn't. So, you know, it was one of those situations.
So do you think maybe rustiness was involved, as in it'd been a long time since you're obviously on a set with Scorsese and De Niro?
Well, a long time since I was on a set with anybody. So yeah, I was extremely rusty, and I moved to. I live in Florida now, so there aren't that many playhouses and things like there were now, obviously in LA or even in Vegas at the time, where I can go and work out and you know and keep that muscle, you know, exercised.
Right.
So yeah, I was extremely rusty. Yeah, and nervous. You know, I mean, rightly so. I mean, like I said, it's been so long, but I was confident enough in my previous abilities when I was on the top of my game to be able to pull it together when I needed to. So, you know, yeah, like I said, I was extremely rusty for sure.
So let's rewind then. Let's go back in time to 1990. I mean, I guess it'd be 1994,
Right.
when you were cast for the first time in a Scorsese film with Casino.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how that came about. How did that process start?
Well, I had an interesting situation. I moved back to Vegas. My mom was getting sicker, and she'd had some heart issues, and I just decided it was better for me to move back to Vegas for a little while and kind of look in on her and you know, and just kind of hang out. Things weren't going too well in LA at the time, and I had a terrible time with an ex-girlfriend, and we broke up, and I was going through a tough time. I really loved her, so I was kind of licking my wounds, and so yeah, I signed with a new agent that had just started in Las Vegas, and they originally their roots were from LA. They were former casting director and an agent, so they formed this little bit more professional of an agency that was in Vegas at the time, and they loved me. I had done another movie for them prior in Vegas, so they submitted me to Ellen Lewis, and through another great guy who was a local casting guy and an actor in Vegas named Ray Favaro. Who's I think he's still around somewhere, but great guy. And he brought me in through Ellen Lewis as well, through the casting, through my agency and through Ellen Lewis. So he had actually, I think, was working as her assistant at the time. So yeah, they brought me into audition, and I read for Ellen. She put me on tape, and I got the call a few days later that Bob De Niro had seen the tape, and he requested, you know, to bring me back for a callback with him and Marty. So that's what happened. I went in and read, and interesting enough, I mean, as you know, out of the loop that I've been for so many years and not really, you know, I was pretty rusty then as well. I had felt completely at ease with these guys. I mean, they completely set me at ease. Very humble, very generous artists and people, just very kind, very considerate, just class acts all the way. I can't say enough about these guys. And so we started our scene, and initially I was reading for a different character, and you know, it was like 5 or 6 lines. And after the 5 or 6 lines, I felt like maybe I could say something more. So I continued and I started to improvise. And like, you know, obviously, as great of an actor as De Niro is, he was right there. You know, I mean, he just kept, the more I gave him, the more he gave me back. It was like a tennis match. And it was incredible because I wish I had gotten that tape just for my own personal, you know, archives, because it was amazing, because we just went off, you know, back and forth, and I love to improvise. So I actually saw Marty, you know, he was to the right of Bob, which was to my left, and I actually saw him like go like this, you know, like move up in front of in his chair, like he was, you know, I could see him out of the corner of my eye. So I knew I had something. I was onto something. And then, you know, they were very nice. They asked me a few questions after that, and that was it. Got up, thanked them, shook their hand, and I left. And I get a call 4 days later from Ellen Lewis, and directly, which is rare because casting usually calls your agent, and your agent tells you you got the role, or you know, whatever the feedback may be. You know, and I'm anticipating. You know, you sucked. You know, what are you doing thinking you're, you know, even in the same league with these guys? You know, how dare you come in and waste our time? You know, I'm just waiting for that ball to drop, you know. And so she gets on the phone, and she says, Craig, she said, I want to tell you, you didn't get the role that you originally read for, but we'd like to offer you the role of the cowboy. And I had no idea what that was. And I'm just like, I'm listening, and I'm like, you know, jumping through the wall, you know, but I'm trying to be really cool and calm. And I said, great. And she says, one thing Marty wanted me to ask you was, there's a scene where Joe slaps you. Are you going to be okay with that? Now I'm, you know, again, in my head, I'm going, what, are you fucking kidding me? Am I okay with it? He could hit me with a fucking sledgehammer. I don't give a shit. Are you fucking crazy? Yes, of course I'm okay with it. You know, I mean, I've been in enough barroom fights and altercations in my life. A little slap is, you know, wasn't a big deal. So I said, no, absolutely, sure, whatever we need to do to make the scene work, you know. And that was it. And then I show up, and you know, and the rest is like, you know, it was amazing. I mean, it was just we had a great time. I think we might have mentioned I had said something about the fact that when one of the first scenes with Bob, he comes up to the table and approaches me and asks me to take my feet off the table, and I'm looking at him, and I'm going, you know what's coming, right? I got to do this line, and I'm thinking in my head, you know, I mean, this is like a gift. Like, I got to do this, right? I mean, the line Travis Bickle, right? Are you looking at me? Are you talking to me? You know, and I'm going, I got to do this, right? And I'm thinking, and then again in my head, that little voice in my head's going, what are you, a fucking retard? You know, you're gonna look like such an amateur joke, like a retard, to do this line, to do this. I mean, how many people, you know, always ask Bob to you know, could you repeat that line? Could you do that line? You know, so instead of actually doing it, maybe saving it for a blooper reel, maybe cracking those guys up, I don't know. I just refrained, and I internalized.
Maybe you should have done it like on the 3rd or 4th take or something. Because imagine if Scorsese has actually loved it, and maybe love the fact that it was a kind of Easter egg or a reference to Taxi Driver, and he left it in. That would have been amazing. If not, if even not that, then maybe just for a laugh, crack the
Oh,
guys up.
absolutely. No, I mean, just as an homage.
It sounds hilarious.
Film, right? I mean,
yeah.
Because I could sell it, I could sell the line, so it didn't sound corny or it didn't sound, purposely put in there. I was definitely going to do the line, and make it work for that character, for that scene. But like I said, I internalized too much, like I did with the Irishman. Like after, I'd given Marty the sides I wrote, for an improvisation with Bob in that one scene. So I'm thinking, just shut up, Craig. Just shut up, do what's on the page, do your job, and go home, and just be happy you're on the same stage with these guys.
Yeah.
And so, I continue to feel that way, but I also know that there are moments that I could have actually went for that I didn't, that I should have. But that's all 2020 hindsight, right?
Mm. So when you were picked up off the table and you were thrown out of the casino, before that, De Niro actually says a line where he says to the security guards, "I want you to use his head as to open the door," something like that. Did they actually use your head to open the door? Because that's what it looks like.
It was use his head to open the fucking door.
Yeah.
That was it. The fucking door.
And they did.
And they did. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
They actually used your head.
Oh, absolutely. Used my whole body behind it too. And as you can see, I'm not a little guy.
Yeah.
So the momentum of my body going right through with it. Yeah. I mean, we had a padded cowboy hat. It was completely encased in foam and rubber, and yeah. So I never felt the thing, obviously. And I was still so amped up from doing the scene that and fighting with these guys that I didn't, like I said, I didn't feel anything. And then I tumbled into a like an airbag they had set up in the hallway. So yeah, I was completely fine.
What about the slap and when Joe Pesci hits you with the phone? Was that real?
Well, that was real. Yeah, 13 takes of that.
Seriously?
13 takes.
Wow.
Yeah, and again I'm going, what the fuck does he want? Like, how many times are we going to do this? I couldn't figure out why he kept why we kept doing the same thing over and over again, because I thought we had gotten it right, the first couple of takes.
Maybe he just likes seeing you get hurt.
Yeah, well, no, but it was a rubber phone again, so I didn't feel a thing. And I mean, the slaps afterwards, yes. After Joe hit me with the phone, he reprimands me and he berates me like he did, and which only he can do and get away with and be great at, right? And so I'm sitting there, like I said, and he slaps me. Okay, that's one take. Okay, we end the scene. Okay, let's do it again. So like I said, 13 takes of that, and I'm thinking, what am I going to tell this guy? I mean, that was the first day of principal photography on Casino, was that scene.
Oh, really?
Very first scene, first day. I don't know anybody. I've never, I haven't been around anybody. I've never met these guys. First time I met Joe Pesci, and I'm thrown into the lion's den, so to speak, right? But again, I wasn't nervous. I was pretty at ease with these guys. Joe was amazing, such a wonderful guy, another great human being, another class act. And he kept saying, "Craig, we don't have to do that. I can cheat it." And I said, "Joe, look, just go for it, man. I don't care. Listen, And I said, just go for it. Whatever. Let's just make it, as real as possible."
Because it looks real. Yeah. You watch that scene and it's like he's actually slapping the heck out of you, and you look like
oh man, like I said, 13 takes, and I still to this day have no idea what Marty was trying to get out of us on that scene, because I don't know what else I could have done. I mean, maybe he wanted me to get like angry, right? I mean, maybe in his mind he's thinking, you know, if I get angry, maybe, and I was looking at it, you know, post after the film came out, I'm thinking, well, maybe, you know, if I came after Joe's character, after the Spilaccio character, and I lunged at him, then maybe, you know, he'd throw in a scene where maybe my head would have been put in the vice, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know. I thought about that later, like, you know, because you don't, you know, this guy was the head mob guy in Vegas for the Chicago outfit for forever, you know, for many years. So you don't disrespect these guys. You don't go after them. And if you do, obviously you're going to end up dead, or you're going to end up, you know, really hurt seriously. So, like I said, I don't know what he had in mind, why we did the 13 takes. I guess until I ask him, but obviously he probably won't remember this far
So
back.
tell me about the follow-up scene. So the apology scene, which you say was filmed, but just was never in the film.
Right. Yeah, there was a whole nother scene where I had to go back and I'm like, you know, dressed in like in a really nice Western outfit. You know, I had the bolo tie and beautiful, nice hat. You know, I wasn't disheveled. The clothes were like fit me really good, and they looked good, you know. So I looked like a gentleman cowboy, right? So I'm to go back, apologize, and show that I'm being very respectful. You know, obviously my feet are not on the table, but I'm still part of Joe Pesci's crew of misfits and, you know, con artists that are there busting out high stakes poker players. You
So
know,
just out of interest, how does De Niro's character, how does Rothstein actually take the apology? Does he accept it?
oh, he's great. Yeah, he's, you know, but you know, he's pissed. You know, he's still pissed that I have to come back. That, you know, he still has to see my face, but he's more relieved that, you know, that I had a stern talking to, and that, you know, it's never going to happen again. So he's got control of his casino, but again, he's not really happy that, you know, one of Nicky Santoro's characters are in his casino.
Mm.
You know, he'd rather just do without him at that point. You know, just get rid of these guys altogether, because they're nothing but problems anyway. Usually.
Yeah. He just wants to run his casino as is, which is quite ironic in a way, because they're kind of sent there, you know, to make money. And I mean, it's just, that's all part of the conflict of the film, isn't it? You know, how Nicky and Ace just end up going at this, and then they're butting heads because of the whole thing about him trying to run the casino and him trying to rob the casino. So it's, you know, one of the most interesting conflicts of the film. So I mean, you were saying that Scorsese, mid-editing Casino, actually sent you a scene for your own demo reel. Tell me about that.
He did. You know, I wanted all of that extra footage that didn't make it in, and I thought there were a couple of improvisations that I did that I thought were good, and I think I was telling you about this yesterday, that I'm not one of those guys, one of those actors that, you know, with any ego whatsoever, or feel like I have to be more pronounced as a character than I have to be. But this particular instance, the improvisation I did, I thought was very good. I mean, I'm the first one to admit I suck, or that was shitty, or like, oh man, why did I even go there? But I'm pretty astute as far as once you give me the parameters of the character and I kind of got a feel, I tend to be able to get into that role a little bit better, and I can improvise. So what I did was, I thought was pretty good. So long story short, I had called Marty's office and talked to his secretary, and I asked if it wouldn't be, you know, too much of an issue to get my trims, you know, all the footage. Now, I had never assumed that what I was going to get was what I was going to get. I just figured I'd get all of these extra scenes that were there, that were just thrown in, that weren't edited together. I never anticipated that. But again, you know, to my amazement, but now I understand. I mean, obviously, notwithstanding the fact these guys are great artists, but they're They're great human beings. I mean, they're just phenomenally classy, great people who are very, very giving, very understanding. So when I get the tape back, and Marty had cut everything like it was supposed to be. He put in all of the scenes that were supposed to be, that he originally put in his cut, which had to be even brought down even more. Universal told him he had to cut it back more. So I was thinking, well, at least he thought enough of me that he was going to let that whole thing run the way it was supposed to, with me coming back and apologizing and everything. But so when the voiceover, when I go back to apologize, Bob De Niro's character is doing a voiceover like, yeah, this hick, whatever, came back, blah, 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 apologized, and, you know, we straightened it out, whatever the dialogue was at the time, the voiceover. So Marty did it for me. Now you got to understand, like, this guy's like in the middle of editing Casino, right? But he had the wherewithal, not the wherewithal, but the loveliness and the great consideration of saying, I'm going to put this, you know, thing together for this guy, and I think enough of him that I'm going to do this. And he went in and laid down the voiceover, had it edited. I don't know, I'm sure him and Thelma edited it together. So, I mean, it was like the greatest gift, notwithstanding the fact they cast me, put me in this film, but the gift of him doing that while he's in the middle of editing, it just blew me away. I'm like, you know, I'm thinking to myself, boy, I must have done something good in my life to warrant this kind of treatment from these guys. Because, you know, I was expecting them to say, look, Craig, you know, maybe after, you know, when we're done, and you know, after we're done, we'll figure something out. But no, he did it right then and there, sent it to me, and it was amazing.
Yes, that's a really nice gesture, and it kind of makes you think, you know, if he's doing that for you, he must be doing that for other people. So all while he's editing this movie, he's so ultra busy. And I've heard that Scorsese also works on his next movie while he's working. He's finishing up the one he's doing now. So I mean, he's such a busy man, isn't he?